Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CS Cyber. I'm Chad.
I'm Sean.
And today we're actually going back to our Aqua Guardian series. We took a little break last week with the Ohio House bill. But today we're talking about the cyber tools behind the scenes at the water plants.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools, a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that basically start pulling all the things that we've been talking about together.
Yeah, and we've kind of talked a little bit about the Purdue model. So each one of these tools will kind of fit into a different layer of the Purdue model. Right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
So why don't we just kind of kick it off with really antivirus and EDR, right? That's at the endpoint level. That's maybe not at your PLCs, but it's at your HMIs, it's at your desktops.
Yeah. So let's deal with that first. So let's go over the difference between antivirus and EDR or anti-malware. I think there's a lot of confusion across the board. So let's simplify it real easily. Antivirus was like circa 1990s, early 2000s. So those were your Nortons, your McAfees, your all those like normal.
They still may be there today.
Yeah, they may be. But that was the old school stuff, right? It was very pattern based. There had to be antivirus signatures. And for the most part, antivirus was historically only able to see what it was taught to look at, right?
Right. It only knew what it was looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now, as we've evolved, now we have endpoint detection and response, or you may hear it called anti-malware, or you may hear it called anti-ransomware. But at the end of the day, it's talking about endpoint detection and response. EDR started out as a forensics tool, and it was used basically to be used post-incident or post-breach in order to gather the digital forensics or the digital fingerprints that were needed. And then eventually it evolved into what we see it today as in the form of things like FortiEDR, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne. Also keep in mind, not all EDRs are created equal. So there's nothing stopping software manufacturers from stamping the letters EDR on top of whatever it is and it not actually be EDR.
So EDR has like a couple of different versions, right? It could be the old school antivirus just relabeled and runs on the operating system, or you can have an EDR like FortiEDR that runs.
Yeah, I think one of the big examples of what you're talking about is CrowdStrike specifically. People will immediately associate EDR to CrowdStrike.
Right.
But what they may not know is that CrowdStrike actually sells an antivirus that's not an EDR.
Right.
Right. So you got to be very careful about that.
All right. So an EDR is really the last line of defense, right? That's at the endpoint. It's going to quarantine anything that it hasn't seen before, or maybe quarantine the box that.
Yeah, I was talking to one of our engineers this morning about this. EDR is definitely preventative. So it's a tool that our specific tool for the EDR is designed to stop initiation before it gets loose. So as a piece of malware is executing, FortiEDR is stopping it before it even gets to that point. So think of it as keeping a gun holstered, without taking it out type thing.
But EDR doesn't necessarily know what it's looking for. It's just saying, hey, I haven't seen this before, and this looks scary to me, so I'm stopping it right now.
That's correct. There are necessarily no signatures involved with EDR. And the other thing, to just hit off your point real quick, a lot of people think EDR is the end-all, be-all, and it's like a desktop firewall. And they think if they have EDR, they're good to go. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. So don't fall into a trap thinking that, well, I have EDR, so there's nothing else I need.
It's definitely not the first line. It's the last line of defense.
It is 100% the last line of defense.
All right. So firewalls.
Yeah, firewalls also get this rap, right? Well, I'll just get a firewall and I'm protected. Or I'll just get a firewall plus EDR. Those are all great components. Cybersecurity is a layered defense. There's the whole Swiss cheese model type thing that we can talk about. Yeah. But the firewall is your perimeter device. It also can assist with segmentation. And it's a necessary part of the component of your cybersecurity hierarchy.
Right. And I think with firewall, specifically with water, we want to use those. It's not just a firewall at your perimeter, right? You want to segment off and gate off specific access of your environment and basically kind of create many little DMZs in between them, right?
Yeah, and you actually need a DMZ. Right. So in a water scenario, that's where your historian may go. That's where some of your devices that need to communicate more with the outside world, like the internet. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Got network monitoring tools?
Yeah. So, depending on how you insource or outsource your IT, there could be some network monitoring tools, or in our industry, what we call an RMM, right, which is a remote management and monitoring tool. So typically, managed service providers will put an agent on every device in order to monitor the health, whether it's up or down, the hard drive's full, all those types of things. And they'll also use those same tools to remote in and do work. Now, that being said, these particular tools, and some examples of those tools are things like ConnectWise has a product that's used for, what's their product called?
It's not Manage. It's the, I forget what it was.
I forget what it is. ConnectWise has a tool. Kaseya has a tool. There's a lot of different tools out there that facilitate that. So you have to be super careful about letting tools like that in your environment, because guess what? If a bad guy was able to get access to that console, they would immediately have access to hundreds or thousands of devices just in one login.
Yep. Well, that takes us to like access control, right? So
yes,
we see this a lot. Everyone needs to have their own account.
Yeah, we see it a lot. We've seen it a lot in the manufacturing space for sure, down on the manufacturing floor. We see it a lot in law enforcement, criminal justice, fire, where we've got universal logins. So just one published login with a password, or in some cases, an auto login that's scripted, right? I remember doing that back in the day. But everyone, and a lot of regulatory procedures or processes already dictate that this is a no-no.
Right.
So everyone should have their own account, and no shared login should be in place.
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? So not only should people have their very own login, in some situations they should have multiple of their own login, right? So they should have a login for the water environment and what they're doing there, and then their domain login for their email and their day-to-day
Yeah, it's the same thing really we recommend when we're looking at even non-water stuff, right? If we were to walk into a company, we would say, your users need a login for your IT people need a login that they would log in just with regular privileges, no administrative rights. And that's what they log into all day long. And then only when they need to make an authorized change would they log in with an administrator account. That's also named to them.
Right.
Not the generic administrator account.
Yeah. You shouldn't have one domain admin account that just you use for your email and everything else.
No, that's correct. I mean, you probably will have one, master username and password that is basically the key to the castle, right? Yeah. And that sucker's locked up.
So, I mean, right onto that, password managers, you have multiple accounts. You got to remember complex passwords. These are easy tools.
They are easy. I've been doing a lot of public speaking in the last few months, and I've been trying to take the time to actually start to show people a password manager and how it works and how easy it is to operate. And I can definitely see as we end 2025 and go into 26 that it's going to be the year of the password manager. That I think that's what we're going to have to get to. We're going to have to make a concentrated effort to get people to understand things like 1Password and Keeper and if you're using the keychain feature and the Apple products, using the password man. If we don't stop reusing passwords, we won't break the cycle.
Right, 100%. So, I think that's. Did you have any other tools, or I think that's all?
No, I think that Yeah, I mean, for the sake of the there's a lot more tools out there.
We could go all day.
For the sake of the podcast, I think that's what we have.
All right, so that's what we got today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, we'll see you on the next episode.